which of course we'll see momentarily. In his book on family purity, Dr. Moses Tendler of Yeshiva University, in his epilogue, quotes a passage from the Gemara, from the Talmud in Bechoros, which tells of an interesting exchange between one of the sages of the Talmud and the wise men of Athens. The wise men asked him, what does one do when salt begins to rot? How does one preserve it? And he answered that one preserves such salt with the placenta, with the afterbirth of a mule. To which they responded, a mule cannot give birth. How could that be? To which he said, when does salt ever rot? And that's the passage in the Talmud, which of course is very, very cryptic, very puzzling. And Rabbi Tendler basically is quoting or explaining what the Maharshal, one of the commentaries on the Talmud, understands to be the meaning of this passage. These Greeks were saying to the sage that they believed the Torah, which we always said was the salt that preserved the Jewish community and the Jewish people, was beginning to rot. We should adopt some form of modernity. What the Hellenists were saying had some validity, is what they were contending. And Rabbi Yehoshua's answer to them was that the mule, which seems to be a very strong animal, which seems to be able to be the ideal beast of burden, although it's so strong, nevertheless it is sterile. It is, in a sense, as Dr. Tendler says, it is a freak of nature. It is almost artificial or synthetic so that it cannot regenerate. And what he was saying to them was that you're suggesting that we adopt a modern, newer approach. That is artificial. The salt really never rots. It's the Torah that has kept us and the Torah that will preserve us and that will ensure that there is a Jewish people in the future. Many individuals, many communities have thought that they understood that Mikva, that the whole concept of family purity is a thing of the past, is a relic of an era of ancient times that no longer has relevance for Jewish life. In fact, the Jewish point of view is very different. It is that there is something very natural about the practices involved in revolving around family purity that really make a marriage stronger and make the bonds of family that much stronger and that much healthier. Even in modern society, even in Western cultures, the woman is seen as the homemaker, because even if she works outside the house, primarily she still turns the house into a home. But from a Jewish point of view, she does that much more, because by introducing the concept of family purity, which primarily rests with her and is to some extent shared by her husband, aside from making her house a home, she really introduces the concept of sacredness and sanctity into marriage, into love, and into what a Jewish home is. And it's on that basis that we chose a certain pasuk, a certain verse for the plaque, which I'll ask Mrs. Block to unveil. Dedicated in memory of Lily Stenge, Aleh Hashalom, March 13th, 1985. And the pasuk, the verse which we have quoted, is from Proverbs, from Mishlei of Shlomo HaMelech, of King Solomon. Chachmos Noshim Bansa Beisa. It is the talents, the abilities, and the wisdom, the understanding of the woman that builds Jewish homes. In a Jewish home, it is the woman's talent and understanding and insight, but also, as we were saying, it is the sacred nature that she introduces into the whole manner of living, into the whole manner of family life. Lily was this, as a thought we will develop in a few minutes. Lily was certainly this in her home. She made her house a home. She introduced this concept of sanctity because it was something that she felt had meaning for her. But in being an encouragement and a support for Marvin in everything that was his endeavor and that was their endeavor, it was through their efforts, in fact, that this very mikvah was built, which is the reason we are dedicating it in her memory. And it is because of this edifice that this bias, which we hope every Jewish home would be, really came to be within the realm of possibility for so many families in the London community. So the bias that Lily built was a personal one in her home, but also through her dedication and through Marvin's, she was able to create a sense of bias for the community in this edifice and in the holiness that could enter Jewish homes because of what this building could provide. We're all welcome for a few minutes to take a look at the mikvah, and then we will continue in the shul.
The outside.
Very deep.
I figured they have their parties, we can
Good morning, Red. How are you?
Nice small contributions there. Hanging up the right.
I'm not far enough away to be worthwhile. Doesn't matter. I'm not on, I don't need them.
Have made the observation that a disproportionately large part of the Torah is devoted to stories, to the events in the lives of our forefathers, even sometimes to the utmost, most minute detail. Whole sections of the Torah are devoted to single episodes, while whole sections of Jewish law are often derived from no more than one verse, one pasuk, and sometimes even from one word. This is because the Torah is concerned with character development, with values, with the spirit that is the foundation for the law and which represents the goal also towards which the practice of Jewish life is to lead. What we learn about our forefathers, about our matriarchs, thus represents the critical axis around which our understanding of Judaism evolves. Much ado has been made, and we have referred to, about an important comment Rashi offers about Sarah. She is in the tent. Abraham tells the angels she is modest, private, snuahi, Rashi explains. But less attention is drawn, less notice given to a similar type comment Rashi makes about another of the great ancients, about Dinah, daughter of Yaakov. On Vatetze Dinah, and Dinah went forth, Rashi comments, the tragic developments in her life unfortunately began with something that was native to her nature, to her personality. She was a Yatzanis, Rashi says. By nature she liked to go about. Certainly in a modest manner, in the recorded case of the Torah, she went out to sea to meet the women of the land. But by nature she could not sit, perhaps the way a Sarah could. Just as her mother, third of our matriarchs, Leah, was a Yatzanis, Rashi adds, and this was a trait they shared. About Yaakov, about Jacob's wife, we learn, Misham Shanis he. Rachel had the habit to touch things, to occupy herself with the busyness, to be involved with and interested in the objects and materials that were to be found in her environment. A small weakness of sorts, perhaps better said, a trait. Our ancestors were giants of the spirit, intellectual and religious geniuses, and our attempts at achieving closeness with God are often seem to be dwarfed by their phenomenal achievements. But we still endeavor to learn from them because it is always made abundantly clear to us that they were people, that they were alive with their own personalities, with their own traits, with their own individual approaches to problems, to God, and even to Jewish nationhood. And because the Torah stresses again and again their humanness, it is because of this that we find it so natural to learn from their examples. In this context, Lily Stenge, Oleh HaShalom, was an exceptional model for Judaism and for Jewishness in our community. She did not fit a familiar or expected mold. She did not come across as someone whose personality one would project to be ideally suited for what is perhaps a misconceived notion of what deep religious commitment is. Lily was full of life, of vigor and verve, of fun and spirit, of personality. She even acted and spoke as someone who in the most positive sense had a wonderful future beckoning, had all of life before her, as the saying goes, the world was hers. But to her, this was all the more reason to be intellectually honest with herself, to search for what she could be convinced represented basic truths about life, and to sacrifice whatever was necessary to abide by these, to allow these truths to direct her life. She taught so many by personal example that faith and that Shmirat HaMitzvot, mitzvah observance, was for humans, for people. For those willing to give up a little in order to make life more sacred, more sanctified, and to bring deeper meaning to existence. It is no coincidence that Lily and Marvin went on Aliyah. Lily's love for Aretz, for our Holy Land, her desire to actualize her Jewish commitment in the land of our fathers, was a natural culmination of a search for truth and a search for what to her was the essence of living. It was her years in London, and certainly the personal influence of those whom she grew so close to here, that helped her to achieve her goals even during her short, her tragically short and abrupt life, that allowed her to leave this world having made profound changes in her life, which introduced her into a life of complete loyalty to Judaism and to her people. Commitment of belief, but more, commitment of action, of doing. I remember a particular visit Lily made to me approximately 4 years ago. She had been considering yet another change, another adjustment, a difficult one. But she did not make such decisions lightly. They were not spur-of-the-moment emotional reactions. Her behaviors, her actions were not those of a fickle person merely reacting to environmental factors and influences. Others did not make decisions for her. If she was going to accept something upon herself, she was going to do her best to stick with it, hopefully in an environment that would provide some support. When I helped her, to the best of my ability, to answer her question, when her doubts were resolved through seeing a halacha, a practice clearly set forth in a Jewish code, her decision was made. She was so honest with herself. If it was right, she had to somehow make herself live with it. No more questions needed to be asked, and little more had to be said. Lily's traditional old world type values were refreshing in a world where material things usually count for so much. Somehow, her priorities always seemed right. She cared a great deal about people. Friends meant a lot to her. And they always knew that they could count on her, for she was a loyal, giving, and deeply caring person. In many ways, Lily truly had a heart of gold. She was completely genuine. You always knew where she stood and where you stood. If she was unhappy with something, she would tell you, so when she expressed approval or liking for particular people and things, you knew that she meant what she said. And her children always exhibited a proper and respectful behavior, real derech, which seems so hard to come by today, and which so clearly reflected the serious and careful upbringing by a mother who cherished certain values as she did, and who was able to successfully inculcate these in her children. The sense of security which they felt and displayed was certainly the result of this caring mother who, though raised in what has been called a liberated society, though educated and professionally trained, made them her first priority, providing them and Marvin with a very patient, loving care that brought a sense of real warmth, love, and security into their lives. Lily truly made her and their house an intimate, loving home. Many of us here have lost a dear, good friend. Shocking news of her untimely, tragic passing has left a conspicuous void. One that can perhaps be somewhat relieved now, so many months later, as we consider the giant strides which she took to embrace what many of us take for granted, and as we ask ourselves how her commitment and sense of purpose might make us re-examine our own priorities, our own willingness to sacrifice for what we know to be true and right. Her wonderful warmth, her vivacious spirit, her genuine smile, and friendship will be long mourned by those who are close to her, but will be and are so sorely missed by her family. By Marvin, to whom she consistently showed so much understanding, encouragement, and support, and by those children whose lives she enriched, but who had merely begun to receive the transmission of a legacy that she made her own, who hardly had enjoyed the opportunity to learn of her special brand of humanness, of love for life, for family, for her people, and for God. Our memories, as they impact on our lives, certainly represent the living way in which we can bring merit to her neshama, to the sacred spirit that accomplished so much as she did in so little time. May we have the strength and courage to learn from her very inspiring example. May your soul be bound up in the everlasting.
Hadaf Tikva, Israel, November the 3rd, 1985. Dear friends, this is a very difficult letter for me to write. However, I felt that I should somehow participate to some extent in this event. It's been slightly over 8 months since Lily's death. Although it is now easier to talk about it, neither the bitterness over the circumstances nor the sadness have lessened. Needless to say, it is impossible for me to comprehend any conceivable reason for such a tragedy to have happened to Lily. We all know that Lily contributed goodness and love and caring to her family and friends, and indeed to anyone with whom she had contact. Our beautiful children and wonderful friends are ample proof of Lily's love for those around her. Her work with senior citizens and young couples in Israel, which she did in exemplary fashion, was even more outstanding, since she did all this while settling our family in 2 communities in Israel, all within 3.5 years. The tragic irony of this terrible situation is that of all people I can think of, no one loved life or lived their life more fully than did Lily. For Lily to die while giving a new life is completely incomprehensible. We had several wonderful years in London, which allowed us to grow individually and together as a family unit. We both tried to contribute in all aspects to the London community. But in retrospect, we both agreed that we received as much as we gave through the many friendships we had, both personal and business. In many ways, it is fitting that a monument to Lily be perpetuated in London, since both our married and family lives began here. Only 6 years prior to Lily's death, we celebrated the birth of our eldest son, Moti, in this hall. I think that was the happiest time in our life together. I don't know what else to say, and there really isn't much I can say. I'm sure that Eddie will add a few appropriate words of his own. I would like to thank my family and you, my friends, for making a special effort to attend this dedication. I wish you all good health, and with time and God's help, I hope we shall once again meet under better circumstances. Shalom v'lehitraot, Marvin. For all of us who knew Lily, I'm sure deep down, we cannot bring ourselves to believe that this tragedy has occurred. In a way, I don't think we ever will, and in a way, perhaps we never should. Lily and Marv were always community people, and when they lived here, I remember how enthusiastic they both were to have a mikveh built in this city. They, along with other members of this congregation, were the primary individuals who researched, organized, and built this project. And although during this time, they were already thinking seriously of moving to Israel, Lily and Marv regarded the need for this mikveh with the same importance as though they were planning to settle here in London. They felt so attached to this community that it made no difference where in fact they lived. They knew that their friends here were to be friends for life. It is this same type of feeling that although Lily is not here with us, we feel that indeed she lives on and is our friend for life. Since I lived here during those years and share with Marvin my high regard to this wonderful community, I'm honored to have Lily Stenge's memory perpetuated by this community, and certainly to this very appropriate symbol of mikveh, the source of family and community purity. May God give Marvin and his family the necessary strength and health to rebuild their lives and continue to be a source of friendship to us all.
This is a Dvar Torah, and though I'm speaking to you who are present, I really would like to say it to Marvin himself. And with God's help, maybe it will get back to him sometime. But I'll let you listen. Yeah. Now the plaque that you just unveiled, it had a pasuk from Mikva. And the rabbi commented on it, and he said to me before the affair, he came up to me and he said, in case you're planning to say something about the pasuk on the plaque, you should know that I'm going to say something about the pasuk on the plaque. So you might feel that it might be unnecessary or it might be redundant. I said, don't worry about it. I said, what I'm going to say is, I'm sure not what you're going to say. I would like to make a few remarks on this passage. It's a very remarkable one. Everything, as we know, is with divine providence. It's not an accident that this particular passage was chosen. How it happened was very peculiar. The rabbi came up to me when we were planning it, and we were thinking about what to put on the plaque, And he said it would be appropriate to have a pasuk. And I thought to myself, yes, it would. And I thought to myself, the words came into my mind at that moment, the words of this pasuk. And then the rabbi turned to me and he said, how about this? And he repeated these same words. I don't think I ever told anyone this because no one would believe me if I did. But certainly this is a sign that there's some significance in this particular passage in Mishnah. Therefore, on this occasion, I thought about it, and I came up with this explanation of it. I hope that it is the right one for this occasion. Now, the passage, as we read to you, Chochmas Noshin Bonso Pesa, which means wise women build their house. Sounds simple enough. And by the way, there's the second half of the pasuk that nobody puts on any kind of plaque. The second half of the pasuk goes, "V'yivelet b'yodeh sahar sena," which means the foolish woman with her own hands tears it down. Now, when you think about that, it appears to be so obvious and so simple, you wonder why it's worthwhile even saying such a thing. Well, of course, a wise woman builds her house. What woman wouldn't build her house? And who in the world with her own hands would tear a house down? Look at the animal kingdom. Look at and the Torah says you can learn from everything. We can learn from cats, we should keep clean, and we can learn from other animals, other characteristics and so on. And you look in the entire animal kingdom, you see that the female of all these, of every species, is concerned, not only the male also is concerned, the birds to build a nest, the lions to build a lair, whatever. Everyone is concerned in building a home to raise their children. It's something that animals do with instinct. Why in the world, then, does a human being have to have some special kind of chokhmah, as Shlomo in his infinite wisdom tells us, some special kind of wisdom to do what animals do by instinct, to build a home? And so the question is, what does this mean? And furthermore, where do we ever see, among animals in any event, that animals tear down their nest, birds undo their nest, animals tear down their home, whatever? So you have to be, only a human being has to be warned. A foolish woman, by the way, with her hands tears down her home. So what is this wisdom? What is this chokhmah that we as human beings, as Jews, are heir to, whereby we're told, with this wisdom, you can build a home. Without it, God forbid, tear it down. Better to have the instincts of an animal, right? And not be concerned, and therefore you can be pretty much assured you will build your house as animals instinctively build their home. And not be concerned with the other side of the matter, that without wisdom, God forbid, something else might happen. Animals, by instinct, never tear down their homes. What kind of advantage is it to have this chokhmah, this wisdom? From here we have to turn to something else. Reishis chokhmah, yiras Hashem, we're told. What's the beginning of wisdom? The beginning of wisdom is fear of Hashem, fear of God. Hashem gave man wisdom for a specific reason. This wisdom, however, carries with it danger. Man can take this wisdom and use it for good. And he can take this wisdom, God forbid, and use it for the reverse of what is good. A dangerous thing is. And nevertheless, God in his infinite understanding, mercy, goodness, gave us chokhmah, the capacity to fear Him, to understand God. For a person, a human being, and a Jew in particular, to know that his position in the world is under the gaze of God's eye. That's the beginning of all wisdom. And so, Stenge, in his infinite wisdom also, says, look, we are blessed with this understanding that we have, this mind, this wisdom, whereby man can attain, science and understanding of the world that can lift him far above what animals can attain. But this very same understanding, this very same mind, this very same choice that God gave man through the use of his mind can be used for destruction too, can tear down. The foolish woman, with lacking the wisdom, has the capacity of destroying her home. What does it mean to build a home? The building of a home, as we Jews have always held it, is the having of children. Al tikra boni, ala boni. Don't call your children children. Call your children your builders. They are the true builders of our future, our children. And how does one build a life, a home in Israel, among the Jewish people? Well, of course, by training your children, above all, to fear God. That's the beginning of wisdom. That's the whole point of being a human being. This wisdom that Hashem has given us in order that it should be used constructively to build and not, God forbid, to destroy. Where must that wisdom start? Reishis Chochmah, Yiras Hashem, fear God. And where does the education of children begin? Well, you can talk now. Psychologists will tell you where the education of children begin. Sociologists will tell you where the education of children begin. It used to be thought many years ago that education of children began when they became 20, or when they were 15, or maybe even when they were 10. And now we're told, as a matter of fact, we've gotten wiser now. The education of children begin as soon as they're born, as soon as they're out of the mother's womb. In the crib, they start learning already. You have to be careful what you do and how you speak to them, and what kind of pictures they see, and so on. Our Torah says, that the education of children begins even before that time. The education of our children begins with their very conception. That's what our Torah says. When children are conceived in purity and holiness and sanctity, which is what a Mikva stands for, then it's possible to have children that grow up with Yiras Hashem, fearing God. And then they can build their homes. A house that's built on fear of God is a home that will endure, that will be a source of Torah and mitzvahs, and a light into the world the way that God meant the Jewish people to be. That's a simple drasha for a Shabbos who knows what they're very nice words, who listens to them. We have other kinds of wisdoms. We have psychology, we have philosophy, we have sociology, we have anthropology, we have biology, all kinds of wisdoms. At the university, you can go there and pay your money and learn them all. You won't learn fear of God, of course, but that's irrelevant. You'll learn how to build a home physically. You'll learn how to raise your children. They'll teach you everything. They'll teach you everything except the foundation of what wisdom is. Fear of Hashem. Fear of God. And our Torah says, and Stenge, in his infinite wisdom, says, be careful. And this wisdom, this mind that God has given us can be a fantastic blessing. But at the same time, it can be very dangerous. It must be founded on the true foundation. It is not such an easy thing to do. And so God raised us above the animals a little bit. He gave us a little bit more than instinct. He gave us a mind, and He gave us wisdom. But we must use that wisdom to build, and not to destroy, God forbid. And how do we do that? Give us Hashem. Fear of God. How many young couples, kids, families growing up today know this message? Want to listen to it? Want to hear it? Very few, fortunately. Marvin and Lily were one of those few. They remember very clearly when we came into London, talking about, city and so on. And I had been involved with trying to build a mikveh in this city, as some of you might have known about, with varying degrees of unsuccess. And I must tell you, some of you may know me that I don't give up very easily, But I must tell you that I had just about given up with the idea of building a mikveh in the city. I've been to this institution and to this person and here and there and everywhere. Nobody wanted to listen. As a matter of fact, at one place where I won't mention the name of the institution, I went to one organization and suggested the idea. The result was that they passed a motion never to mention the word mikveh at any of their meetings again, and it was passed unanimously almost. There were only 2 dissenting votes. I know who those 2 were. One of them is the president of the Jewish Community Council. Be that as it may, I had given up hope. Marvin came to me and he said, "What is this business of running to Toronto? This is crazy. Why in the world can't we build a mikveh here in our city?" I said, "Gesundheit, Marvin, you have my blessings." I didn't think he could do it, believe me. And a miracle happened. I don't know how he did it. He went and he cornered this person and he talked to him and he came up with a plan. He was a builder. I was a philosopher. I come in and said, "Let's build a mikveh." I said, "You go build it in heaven. You're a philosopher. What do you know about building?" Marvin was a builder. He got the plans together. He went here. He collected money and he went and talked to the people in the shul here and he made a plan that it wouldn't destroy the decor of the shul. It would look pretty, look beautiful, and everybody was. And believe it, before I turned around, he went to Ann Arbor and looked at one of the mikveh there, and he went to Toronto and looked at one. Before he turned around, he had the plans, and he had the consent, and he had the money, and we were building a mikveh. And I said to myself, "Is it real? Is it true?" I kept pinching myself. I can't believe that it's really going to happen. Something has got to happen. And then they were out in the middle of, remember very clearly, had a deadline to finish something in the foundation or something, and their workers were not working. Something happened. All of a sudden, Marvin comes in and he grabs Manuel Puccione, I think it was Mike in here and Gerard Klein. We all went out and we grabbed wheelbarrows and we started dragging sand from one place to another. And Marvin was, hurry, you have to get it finished, the builders. I don't know how he did it, I don't know. But he did it. He did it. And before this occasion today, when we have officially named the memory of Lily, before that, any person, any woman or man who ever walked into that mikveh to use it, he was a guest of Marvin and Lily. He was their guest. Without him, that mikveh wouldn't be there. Marvin, Eddie read this letter from Marvin, right? In this letter, Marvin has a question, right? Who can answer that question? I can't answer the question. I'll just tell you a story from Baal Shem Tov. When whenever I find myself at a loss of what to say, I'll tell a story. Once a couple, a man and a woman, they had no children. So they came to the Baal Shem Tov. They heard of his great, miraculous, wonderful powers. He had the power of giving blessings no one else could ever dream of doing. People who had no children, that the doctor said you couldn't have children. People who were sick, the doctor said there's no way to be healed. They came to the Baal Shem Tov, he took care of them. So this young couple came to the Baal Shem Tov, and they told them their problem. Doctors say we can't have children, and we don't have children. Give us a blessing. The Baal Shem Tov looked at them and he said, you know, there are keys to 3 blessings that God doesn't give away to anyone. He keeps them for himself. And these are the blessings of Bonai, Chai, Mezonai. The blessings of children, of Parnoso, of livelihood, and of life. Now, Hashem has given you ample blessings with regard to Chai Mozonai. You're healthy, you're well, you're rich. He was a wealthy man, successful in business, top of the world, he had everything. One thing he didn't have was children. Now Hashem in his infinite mercy has seen that, has decreed that this shall be the blessings that he would give you. He's giving you the blessings of health, wealth, but he has withheld from you the blessing of children. Now I can give you a blessing, said the Baal Shem Tov. I can give you a blessing that you will have a child, but you're going to have to give up one of the other blessings in return. Would you be willing to do that? And the couple looked at one another, they conferred with one another, and they turned back to the Baal Shem Tov and they said, well, of course, what is our wealth worth if we have no children to inherit it? You give half of it to the government anyway, whatever. What is our life worth if we have no children to carry on our name, to carry on our line, to carry on our memory? Of course. Take whatever from those 2 blessings that we have, take them away, and give us a child who's there. You look at our heroines. Who are our heroines? Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. What did they pray for? Pray for children. What else? What could be a better blessing for a Jewish woman than a child? I won't go into the details of how women think today about what blessings are and where their priorities are and what they pursue, whether it be a career or whatever, vacations. The Jewish woman is prepared to give all that away for a child. That's what it means to be a Jewish woman, with Jewish values, Jewish ideals. That's what it means to be a Jewish woman who has Yiras Hashem, fear of God. Today we don't have very much of that. Marvin and Lily represented one of those very few couples who built their house on fear of God. Yiras Hashem. And God saw fit, in his infinite mercy, to take Lily while she was giving birth to a child. She died in building. That's what life maybe is all That's all that life is, perhaps. That we all give ourselves away, die in building. Maybe that's the reason why we are all here. Who can explain the ways of God to man? Who can explain these things? All I know is that what Lily gave her life for was the essence of what it means to be a Jewish woman. But the essence of what it means to have fear of God. And so we are gathered here to officially commemorate the mikveh in the name of Lily. Though unofficially, I can assure you, it was their mikveh from the time it was built, and has been that ever since. Now it's official. And so, the only thing that I can think of to say on an occasion like this, in addition to what I have already said, is that may this mikveh become a very busy place in our city, instead of a building that's frequented by a few women. Most of you have never been inside this mikveh before. May it become so busy that if you want to come here and use it, you'll have to make an appointment 3 days in advance. And then London will be a city that will be full of homes that are being built by wisdom of women, by women who are using their wisdom to build their homes based upon fear of God, sanctity, and holiness. And Marvin and Lily's name will be remembered in this community as the one who laid the foundation for this building, the spiritual building, which is the fear of God of London, as far as I can see. May it grow in numbers until all of us, in some sense, partake of the great blessing that this building has to give us, Kedusha v'Tahara, holiness and sanctity, and that together with Klal Yisrael, all Jews over the whole world, we will build that ultimate edifice, that Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, b'mehera v'yameinu, speedily in our day through Mashiach Tzidkenu. Amen.
Malos kadoshim mutahorim kazor kiamasirim es nishmas leachana bas pinchas shel choli olamo bavur shem mishpachtot hitain staka baras koras nishmasa began eden teimenuchasa lochein baal harachamim yastirecha b'seiser knofo Olamim v'yitzror achayim es nishmasa Arinoi hunach lasa v'senuach hamishkava b'shalom v'nomar Amen.